Hello, welcome to Bridge to Wellness. My name is Brigitte, your host. Today's guest is Svetlana Kim. Svetlana is the author of White Pearl and I, a memoir of a political refugee which chronicles her journey from Russia to the United States, where she arrives with only $1 in her pocket and not a single word of English at her disposal. Today, she is a leader among her peers in the business world and has been honored with numerous awards citing her commitment, skill, and integrity. Svetlana's workshops and seminars to help your organization achieve the ultimate results, love and trust of all who you are, and live a happy and fulfilled life. Ladies and gentlemen, Svetlana Kim. Thank you so much, Svetlana Kim.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
You're welcome. It's so wonderful to have you. And I'm so honored and blessed to have you on my show and just to call you my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So on this show, I really love to showcase my guests. And the thing that I love the most is children. I want to know about your childhood, if you're comfortable and you're open to it.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked this question because I think about my childhood every day, and especially I think about my grandparents. And my father actually has not been feeling very well, and I was able to share some very rare black and white pictures, less than a dozen, with my aunt and my cousins. And my aunt wrote to me early in the morning. She said, you probably miss them. And I didn't even thought about that. And I do miss my grandmother and my grandfather because they raised me when I was 9 months old. My father was actually a student. And it was very hard for them financially to raise a child. And my grandmother was a preschool teacher, and she retired and took care of me and my cousin Irina, who is 4 years older than I am.
And where did this take place?
Actually, my grandmother and my grandfather had very interesting story because they were victims of 1937 deportation by Joseph Stalin. When he was getting ready for World War II in Russia, in far east of Russia, that area called Karafuta, which is very close to Japan. And the island, Sakhalin, was under Japanese occupation from 1905 until 1945, for 40 years. My grandmother was born in 1917. So she basically lived through every major historical event in Russia.
3 дня на улице жить, нам ничего не давали. Имущество ничего не давало. У нас было кое-что много отцовое, там и скот было, и то тут все отобрали и ничего не давали. И на 3-й день нас погрузили в грузовой машине и привезли в станцию Раздольный.
Stalin decided to force and deport about 200,000 Soviet Koreans from far east of Russia to Central Asia. And my family ended up in Kazakhstan. So I grew up on a farm in Kazakhstan.
You lived on a farm?
My paternal grandfather was an agriculturalist. So he specialized in cultivating and teaching people how to farm rice. That was his specialty. And of course, he loved the vegetables, flowers, and we had a horse because that was his transportation. He didn't have a car, he had a horse, and he was riding 10 miles a day, just one way, or sometimes even more. And when he would come home, he would be so exhausted, and my grandma would literally help him to drag from the horse to bed.
And you witnessed all this?
I did not witness dragging him from the horse to bed, but I witnessed that this man was resilient. My grandmother was very young mother to 3 children, and my father was probably around 9 or 10.
Yes.
And my grandfather was ordered, actually he had an order from government to move to Chechnya in 1953 to cultivate and to start farms, agricultural communities, I would say. And he was devastated because he had never been there. He took a train, he had 3 little children, and he left everything behind that he was building. And if he wouldn't succeed, he would probably be assassinated. So he went to get a bowl of soup, and my grandmother heard an announcement that all the trains are delayed because there was a death accident. And she just knew that it was her husband. But when she told me the story, she was so calm, and she was grateful, and she was even smiling, Bridget, because the hospital let her stay with 3 little children. And the doctor said, get ready for the funeral. And my grandmother said, well, he is still breathing, he's still alive. He was in coma for 16 days. And my grandmother had such a strong faith that, you know, they let her stay in the hospital. Literally back in 1953, they didn't even have an operation room, or it was very basic. And his arm was amputated. And not only they make to Chechnya, but he became very successful, and they had 1 more child.
When did you move away from the farm?
I moved away when I was 5 because I had to go to school. Yeah, but I would visit every summer.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school in Russia, and I lived with my parents.
Oh, that's so interesting. How many languages do you speak?
I speak Russian, that's my first language, but I also knew how to speak Koremar, the language my grandparents spoke. And when I did research for my first book, I learned that it was the dialect of the 5th century Korean language. So modern people from Korea today would not understand my grandmother.
What a story. Now, do you have a book about your, because you have so much history and you know it so well?
Thank you. I wrote my first book 10 years ago, and it was very interesting time. My book was published in 2008, and I started writing every day full-time for a year in 2007. But I collected all the stories, so I had literally folders. I did not have outline for the book or a book proposal. I literally remember the story so well, but it was very hard for me to write down because it was so much emotion. And my grandmother passed away in 2010. She saw the book, but she was such a kind and humble person that she just smiled. She said, I don't find anything special in my story because I'm one of 200,000 people who struggle and survived, but many people did not because of starvation, disease, effects of cold weather. It was fall of 1937, and many children did not make it. They died.
What a beautiful woman. And you take after her.
Because she was very strong. You know, her generation, her mother Elena came from Korea to Russia in 1899. Back then, women were not allowed to wear pants. Or to have short shortcuts, not shortcuts, but short hair. So many rules for women, and today, and women have so much freedom to not only express themselves, but you know, raise children in a different way and contribute to our families, to our societies I think in profound way. And women do today. Look at you, what you do with your show, and many things that you had to overcome, and still have faith and love life and share your gifts with the world and with people.
Yeah, and that's why you're here too, because you have so much to share. Tell me everything that you have accomplished.
What did I accomplish? I think the biggest accomplishment really is to have peace. You know, when you and I heard that before, and I heard that from my grandmother. But I remember my grandfather said to me when I failed my exam, I wanted to study Japanese language, and I was very, very competitive back in 1985, and I failed the exam, but I was very close, and I was crying, I was weeping, and my father said to me, you know, sometimes you can have bread with butter and a caviar. Russians love caviar. And sometimes you can just have a piece of bread with nothing on that. But he said, whenever you choose to do, always remember that it doesn't matter if your piece has a caviar today and the butter on the top. It's not every day. And every time you make the decision, you gotta make the decision not because of the caviar, but the decision that is right. And it always stayed with me.
Yeah.
Which literally, you know, if millennials are watching your show, I'm sure there are. It's like there are no shortcuts in lives. And, you know, to come where you are and to come where I am, there are many up and downs, but I think the most important thing is when you have the foundation, and it could be a mother, grandmother, uncle, a friend, it's much easier to navigate in this world. I took a trip with my husband, Dmitry, to Oregon, and everyone is driving 65 miles an hour or going 40 miles an hour.
Yes.
The minute we cross the California border, it's like,
Yes.
someone cuts me
I
on
experienced
freeway.
that too from
And I'm like,
Oregon.
oh,
Yeah.
isn't
Yes.
it beautiful? And we said, oh, it's so slow here. But that's the beauty, that we gotta remember that life on the farm when everything is so slow. I didn't even know how to watch until I was 7 or 8. I was actually 7, because I would wake up with roosters
And the stars and the sun
exactly,
and the moon.
stars. Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
And we live in a very complex world today. Every day there are, moments that we can be stressed out.
I really love that you mentioned peace, because it's probably one of my favorite words.
มันก็เป็นเจตนาเป็นความตั้งใจที่คุณแม่จะใช้ชีวิตเพื่อที่จะรับใช้ใครได้บ้างเราเชื่อว่ามนุษย์ทุกคนพ้นทุกข์ได้นั้นการช่วยคนให้กลับไปถึงความบริสุทธิ์ตั้งมั่น
I learned that when I'm hit the wall or I experience a big challenge, and every time I have a big challenge, it's time for me to come to myself. It's just to have really quiet time. And I think peace contributes to many factors in our lives. It's good for your health, and that I talk about mental health as well, spiritual health, and I think it's much more productive.
So speaking about going back to crossing from Oregon to California and just noticing the difference. It's just a matter of how we handle things. We can go to point A to point B really, really fast, but how are we feeling as we're getting to that point? Is it road rage? We know that intellectually, and we know we have to get somewhere really fast, but are we calm? Are we calm as we're getting there? Are we breathing? Are we taking our time to protect our brain, to soothe our mind and body, to make sure that everything's flowing as we're getting there?
So beautiful, so beautiful. I think in lives we have passages when we move really fast. We're young, we're energetic, we're ambitious, and we have ambitious goals as well. And this is all great. And I've been there, and I'm talking from my experience. But what happened to our energy? There is no awareness, and we're missing a beautiful piece, but also mindfulness. And mindfulness, if we're not mindful, I feel, I'm talking about myself, I don't appreciate how a person is helpful. Even someone who opens the door for you when you carry, bags with milk and fruits, and or someone on a street. So you know the story. On the day I was supposed to pick up our guest, Swami Magellanan from India, I did a very short meditation, probably about 3 minutes. And then I received the message, check your car batteries. I was arrogant and I said, car batteries? I just changed the oil. I always check the car when I pick up a guest, and especially Swamiji from India. So I was early and I text Swamiji, I'm early, I'm near the airport. Don't worry, because this was the first time he was flying to Oakland International Airport. Usually he flies to San Francisco International Airport. I stopped to get a cup of coffee, and I was charging my phone. And I was there early, and I decided to take a walk, but I said, okay, I'm going to get some food. I got back to the car, and I couldn't start my car. Not even a noise. I started again 5 times. And I was also judgmental. I look how people drive really fast. They get their Starbucks coffee. They're out of the mall. But this car, a van, yellow van, was standing parked behind me and was there the entire time. And I already probably spent 30, 40 minutes there. So I walked to the car and I see the driver is talking on the phone. And I read the signs, and I think they're in the business of helping people if you have problem with air conditioners. And I asked him, I said, my car wouldn't start. And he said, where are you going? And I have a long story. I said, our Guru Swamiji is coming from India. I'm supposed to meet him. This is his first time. And my car, I don't know what to do. And he said, do you have AAA? Call emergency road service. I said, I called already, but my name is not on a list, and they refused to come and help me. And he said, okay. And he was very calm. And I showed him the picture of Swamiji. And he said, okay, I'll try to help you. He didn't even say that. He was just like, we need to find someone who has the cords. So he approaches all these young people, and they don't know what he's asking for. And I said to him, no, we need to find old beaten cars. These drivers would have it. And I went around too. And all of a sudden, I'm talking to a young man, and he said, yes, I can help you. And I said, can I ask you a question? You're so organized. And he said, not me, my mother. He said, it's your car. So we jumped up my car, And I was on the way to meet Swamiji. And the minute I relaxed, because I found someone, a good Samaritan, helping me, the minute I relaxed, just for 1 minute, I give myself permission to breathe. I received a text, the flight is delayed by 30 minutes, 31 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was on the way, I arrived just on time.
When we welcome peace into our lives, all the valves open up. And when we shut down, and when we're tight-lipped, the valves start closing.
Yes.
And no more blessings.
No more blessings.
No more.
Yes, because subconsciously we are already preventing ourselves from receiving blessings.
Mm-hmm.
And manifestation, which is the word that we hear a lot today, only happens in a state of deep relaxation. You do Reiki, you help people with stress and trauma via hypnotherapy sessions, using hypnotherapy, and it only happens in a state of deep relaxation.
Yeah. Speaking of hypnotherapy, you are also a hypnotherapist. Could you tell me about your practice and where you got started?
I actually started in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very challenging year for me. I was just emotionally drained. I was emotionally tired. And I had so many struggles. Every project I would start would never be completed. And then my husband said, he saw me being so upset, and he said, you should try hypnotherapy. And I said, I don't believe in hypnotherapy. And he said, do you know what hypnotherapy is? And I said, yeah, kind of know. And he said, well, I completed 3 levels. And I really, knowing you, I really think that it will help you. Because I was not healthy. I was not eating vegetables, fruits. I was living on caffeine and sugar. And my whole system, I couldn't focus. I had negative emotions. My mind was negative. And when I asked Swamiji, when he saw me from far away, why he didn't help me that time, and he said, because he didn't, what I would say, the word, I did not manifest as a teacher because my mind was negative. Swamiji explained that I would not understand his teaching that time.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very, peace is important. If we don't have peace, we're stressed out. If I'm stressed out, I need a cup of coffee. This cup of coffee, I need a muffin. I need a piece of chocolate. And here I am running. I have a lot of energy. And then I get so depleted of energy. And mine is not focused. Mine is constantly raising. Then I don't get enough sleep. If I don't get enough sleep, I cannot be productive. And you're just simply tired. When you're tired, you're grumpy. And then if you're grumpy, people don't want to talk to you.
No,
and you're missing on amazing opportunities because you don't even know what you want.
Yeah.
And then we're waiting when we're completely happy to do something. And then we look back and 5 years pass by. I'm still wanted to do this book, or I wanted to write this song, and then 10 years pass by so quickly. So peace is important.
Oh, very much. And a little example, when you and I spoke on our way here, just minutes before arriving, you had this sense of acceptance and you weren't panicking. There was an extra number on the address, and you were calm and explaining yourself well. And then we hung up. It was everything all is well.
Well, because you were driving and I didn't want to talk to you on the phone that long. But also I had intuition about extra numbers.
Oh.
And I rely on my intuition, but
Yeah.
I should ask you and confirm the address.
Mhm.
Because I knew in California usually it's 3 digits, 4 digits, but not 5.
Okay.
But this
Right.
time it had 5,
Yeah.
right? 5.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah. It was 4. And
it
then
was 4.
it was actually 4. But you had mentioned that there was an extra.
Extra 5. So
then-
it was 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And maybe because we were thinking about November 5 and there was 5 fives. So numbers, what I wanted to say, numbers have energies, right? Numerology.
Yes.
So there is nothing to be really upset about that. It's just interesting because everything, even like extra 5 that in the address, there is some message.
There is. But what I'm saying is that the other thing, we spoke again, and I mentioned that where I was in the parking lot, and you said, okay, I didn't get a sigh from you. I didn't get a frantic voice from you. So because you were calm about it, I felt like I can breathe. I felt I can be at peace, and I stayed happy.
I think you're always happy because that's your choice. See, what you're talking about now is very important because our peace should not depend on outer world. Our peace is inside, and when you make that conscious decision, and I know you're a great meditator, it's easy to come to that space.
Yes.
Like people who practice hypnotherapy, it's so much easier to get in a state of full total relaxation when you've practiced. Like anything else, like driving a car. Do you remember the first time you started driving a car?
Of course.
It's so scary, isn't it?
Very.
Oh my gosh, I remember myself. But now you don't even think about that.
don't
You
think
get in a
about it.
car and you drive.
You just take off.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my mom was extremely tidy. We were trained to put things back where we got them from. One day, when I walked into my mom's house, I felt like I walked to someone else's house. There was stuff everywhere. And just growing up the way I grew up, and to see this transition was very alarming.
When Sean talked to me, it was a wake-up call, and that's when I went to the doctor.
I'm so excited about talking about peace. We can talk about it forever. There's so many ways that we can fall into peace. And then I like to think about those moments when we're in a yoga posture. And for example, when I'm watching my students in the beginning and they're frustrated with themselves and they keep stumbling, and this is life to me. And when they stumble, I say, give yourself permission and be still. Be as still as possible and see what it's like to be as still as possible, because we go through stages, that struggle, that pain. It's like we're morphing out of a cocoon, but we have to leave them alone. And then all of a sudden, peace happens. And then change happens. If only they can stay still for long enough. It happens. And then they begin to trust themselves. And then they begin to learn how to stumble and come back over and over again. That's where we find peace, when we can just give ourselves a chance. And through your hypnotherapy, how do you incorporate peace? Take it away.
Such a great question. There's so many questions. You just expressed so beautifully, and I can see you're such a wonderful, loving, understanding, non-judgmental, kind teacher. Everyone, and you know that because you teach yoga, everyone can learn asanas, yoga postures. Everyone can learn how to do back bends, and you do great back bends. But in yoga, because our body has many layers, and understanding that subtle energy, because 5,000 years ago, yogis were sitting, and asanas were for the purpose of stillness, for meditation. Because when you still your mind, you still your body. When you quiet your mind, you still your body. When you still your body, you quiet the mind. Think about when we burn our finger, our mind, we feel the pain, the emotions, anger, someone gets upset. When your body, and you're doing asanas, and your body completely feels relaxed, that's when you see the benefits, because of the mind, because of the breathing. So when I started doing yoga, I was competing with everyone around me. And then the worst happened. I start comparing my body with everybody. And of course, my mind, it's not focused. I like taking cold showers and sitting in an icy water bath, because there's two things you can do without any force. One is breathing slowly. You inhale longer, but you exhale shorter. And you let it go. The more you let it go, the more your body feels warmer, because it's relaxed. Okay, the same with yoga. Even when we do simple bend, like side bend. So that side has to be strong, just like a tree. But this side has to be so relaxed that I can stretch. But when I'm rigid, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm really good at yoga. I've been doing for 8 months. See, I'm going to hurt myself somewhere. So there's really no competition, only understanding your body and mind and breathing, of course. And you also talk about elements of yoga in real life. And I think that's why yoga, it's a way of life, and peace is part of our lives, part of us. You talk about stumbling. I call stumbelina. You stumble like on a mat too, and it's a great experience. I'd rather to stumble on yoga mat in yoga class with you as a teacher than on a road driving my car 75 miles or 80 miles.
The person next door is not going to say,
yes,
namaste,
yes.
namaste.
You talk, you talk about resilience.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we have to be resilient. Think about the kid. He learns, he's going to fall down, he's going to crawl, he's going to stand up. And you talk about, accepting who you are, understanding who you are, but also understanding that it's life.
Yes.
And actually, all these beautiful moments is the one when I stumble, because you grow.
Yes.
And it's good for health. You have to grow, you have to evolve, and you have to change. I look my pictures when I was in high school. I can imagine if I wouldn't change. I'm talking about my mind, about my philosophy, the life experience, the way I look, the way I eat, the way I live and interact with people. That's called regress. We have to have progress. And even if it's a little things, just like drinking more water and tea than coffee, which is much healthier.
It is, yeah. And then going back to hypnotherapy, what is your favorite part about hypnotherapy?
I think my favorite part, one time I offered over 100 sessions in Russia. And I would earn a loaf of bread or cookies. People would bring whenever I think it's seeing the results, because it's such an incredible experience, and I loved working with children. I worked with little girl, she was 4, very smart, but one day she came from school and she couldn't pronounce her name. She started stuttering, and her name, Alina, had 3A, and that's the letter that she was stuttering. And when I came to do the hypnotherapy, I was prepared to do hypnotherapy like we always do, in the, induction and working with the client. But she wanted to play, and I couldn't refuse. And I said, let's play. So she wanted to be a teacher. I said, okay, you'll be a teacher. And she said, your name is going to be Alina. And I said, that's very interesting, And I said, okay, I love my name. It has 3A. And she was teaching me how to draw the name, the A, letter A. And then she would draw a little B, A and B, and just was very creative. And then she started she fall asleep, and I start the meditation session that lasted almost 90 minutes. And after that, I talked to her mother, and what happened is, in her dream, it was the dental appointment. It was so painful that she was crying, and they said, stop crying. And she was crying, and she was, and the letter A, she started stuttering. And I would never knew that.
Tears.
Basically,
Beautiful.
Which is what I wanted to say. My job is to witness that, because subconscious works. It's not even me. It's her doing the work,
Yes, but
and to
you
see the
had
fruits of that,
tools.
to see the intuition of the child and willingness to accept her stuttering, even though she doesn't know that it's stuttering. She said, I cannot say, like.
But how amazing it was for you to actually be that compassionate and on the edge with her, to hone into.
I was in awe of
Yes.
the abilities of children. Like, you love children, and I think childhood is so important. Why do we breastfeed children? Because they have better immune system. Why do we cuddle children? Because they feel protected, and when they grow up and they face challenges and stumble in the real world, they can get up back in much more productive way than someone who was not cuddled and loved by his or her mother or father.
Joyfully as well, to when they stumble, and then they can even drift through the vast seas and the mountains, but as long as they come back without being so harsh to themselves, or judging themselves or doubting.
I think that's important subject which cost our immune system, cost allergists. It's when we're judge ourselves, we're harsh, we're it's becomes a habit, and I think it's abusive, because that energy transformed to people that you're talking to. It's
Absolutely.
it's energy. It's like Swamiji said, aura. And that's why breathing is important, because you bring oxygen to every single cell in your body, in your brain. We have trillions of cells.
Yeah. Speaking of Swamiji, could you tell me how you came about Swamiji, how you found each other?
In 2012, my mother had some health challenges, and she was worried that she didn't send me a birthday gift. And I said, the birthday gift actually could be a wish, and you can send to me quietly, not even telling to me. My mother is a very strong person. She is the oldest child of 10 children in her family. So she has this maternal obligation and role, she feels. And sometimes she has hard time to express. she would not be the person who would say I love you to a stranger or hug a stranger, but she has enormous resources, and she has a big heart. And I said, you just don't have to tell me, you just can quietly send the wish to me. And that day, on her birthday, I was supposed to go to a wonderful yoga class that I signed up few weeks ago. And about an hour before I was supposed to leave, I received a phone call about a potential project. And of course, I was very interested, and I didn't know that they would be interviewing me on the phone that time. And when I looked, I was late for my yoga class. I was disappointed because I promised to a teacher to show up in the class. On the other hand, it was the sign again. So I asked, what does it mean? My friend was hosting a workshop on Vastu, and not many people signed up. And she said, you must come to the workshop. And I said, I'm not really interested. And I was not in the best mood. And she said to me, it's about Vastu, and it will help you how to get this job or any other projects. And I said, okay, I'm coming. So I came, and I believe, and I talked to Swamiji, that it was manifestation of my mother's wish for my birthday. So I met him on my mother's 67th birthday.
Oh, how special.
So that's her
Yes.
gift to me.
My goodness. Amazing.
Yeah. That's the power of mind.
Yeah. And then
It's not always, buying a physical gift, buying a necklace or buying a dress. It could be a wish to someone that you care about and you love.
in our world,
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah.
we don't have a whole lot of time, but I really want to know more about Swamiji. If you can give us some information about Swamiji, I'd like to share your website and how can we get a hold of you. Can you dabble on this?
Of course.
Yes.
So Swami Ji, his full name is Dr. Manjul Kant Dwivedi, Majulanan, Swami Majulanan. And Swami means a teacher. And people say there is sometimes Guru Dev, how you address gurus, and what is the difference between Swami Ji and Guru Dev. Swami Ji is a teacher. Guru Dev, if Guru accepts you as a student, you address him Guru Dev. So I would say Swami Magellan, Swamiji has an amazing gift, and he has amazing story because he was, I don't know if he told the story in the interview, but yes, I do remember when he went through many challenges in his life. He was destined to have to live in the material world. He was a businessman, he is a husband, he is a father and a grandfather. He has two granddaughters, and his love for a female, like he said, for female, because he's building, not because he loved his mother,
The mother figure,
the mother figure, the Ma, and the ashram he is building is Ma ashram, and Ma literally means mother in Hindu. He has gifts like you do, like so many people, and I think he answered his call, and he talked about that, and he trusted, and that is beautiful, the trust, because the spiritual world, we question, is it going to work? Because it's something, the energy, it's something that we cannot touch. And people say, you know, I repeat mantra or the prayers, but I don't see any positive changes in my life. And then you talk to someone and say, I said mantra one time and I got a job, or I found a perfect house I was looking for. And I think Swamiji's come in our lives when we're ready. They give the blessings to, I use the modern word, expedite our spiritual process. But I do believe that the speed of our spiritual evolvement does not exist. It exists only in our mind. We evolve naturally on divine time. So I stopped forcing myself on a yoga mat. I stopped forcing myself meditating for 60 minutes. I just trusted the divine, and if it's meant to me to meditate today 25 minutes, I'm grateful. If I'm destined to meditate for 3 minutes, I'm grateful. I'm at peace.
They say that when you're ready, your Swami or your Guru will come to you.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
I think that is so beautiful.
When you are ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's our soul. It's
Yeah.
our soul. And that takes trust and peace.
Going
And
back to that word.
yes, and
Yeah.
being mindful, really.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Now, I'd like to talk about this book, The Last of the Four Musketeers.
It's really special because it wasn't even writing the book. It was writing the story of an incredible man named Alan Joe, who transitioned 2 years ago, and he lived a happy life for 96 years. And his wife, Annie Joe, transitioned a year after his transition. He was one of the closest friends of Bruce Lee, legendary Bruce Lee. Next to him is a gentleman named James Lee. James Lee was a strong, successful martial artist right after World War II. He was the first one already back then publishing books and selling, was very successful. Alan and James Lee knew each other since their childhood. So the friendship was very important to them. Alan introduced Bruce Lee to James Lee. James Lee lived in Oakland. There is a house, is still in Oakland, where Bruce Lee and Linda, they were just married, lived for almost 2 years, and Brandon was with Linda and Bruce Lee. Next to Bruce Lee is another friend, George Lee. And George Lee was an amazing, I would say, engineer. He makes special equipment for Bruce Lee. And he was a martial artist and was, of course, a loyal friend. So the last of the four musketeers is Alan Joe. And in this book, he shares his stories of meeting Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee's wife, Linda Lee. And it's about his childhood in Oakland's Chinatown in 1930s. His World War II service, and raising the family, raising 3 children. Just a wonderful story. It's a story that reminds what is important in our lives. And he actually talked about peace and health. And he always reminded that peace is health.
Yeah, he does. an excellent book. Highly
Thank
recommended.
you.
Actually, I have several of my students and clients and even friends already Googling it, ready to buy it. I think some of them already have bought the book.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes, of
Thank
course.
You.
There's a lot of fans out there, you know. Yeah, a lot of
Thank
fans.
You, thank
Now,
you.
I'm going to jump into this as we're just about to close.
Ah.
You're one of your mentors, right?
Well, Elaine Lalane, she published this book just recently. On October 22nd, they had a big launch. If you want to leave, move. Putting the boom back into boomers with Jamie Branca's. Alan's father left the family when Alan was 10 or 11. That was before World War II. And Alan was looking for a mentor. Elaine Lalane's husband, Jack Lalane, became his mentor. Jack Lalane is known as the godfather of modern fitness. He is an inventor. He was an inventor. He opened his first cultural studio, physical cultural studio, modern gym in Oakland.
Stop! Look! Listen! It's time for the Jack LaLanne Show from Hollywood.
Anything in life is possible if you make it happen. You know, Jack always said, exercise is king, nutrition is queen. Put them together, and you've got a kingdom.
In 1936. So many people don't know that Oakland in California is the cradle of
Health
fitness
and nutrition and
nutrition, martial arts because of
Yes.
Bruce Lee. And he trained Alan. And when Jack LaLanne went to pay his patriotic duties and Alan, when they came back after the World War II, they met each other again. And Jack LaLanne encouraged Alan to start training for the first multicultural bodybuilding competition in Berkeley in 1946. And Alan was the first Chinese. Back then, they didn't use the words African American or Chinese American. He was the first Chinese to win that competition. And he shared his knowledge with Bruce Lee. So when Bruce Lee moved to LA, Los Angeles, you see a very fit, sculptured body. He was into nutrition, protein shakes, and of course the poses Alan taught him.
oh, they were all from Alan.
I would say, I cannot say
He has a combination of different mentors.
yes,
yeah.
yes. But he definitely, Bruce Lee learned a lot from Alan Joe.
Yeah, good to know. Highly recommended. Your book, and then I'm so excited to meet your beautiful mentor,
Thank you so
Elaine.
much. Well, Elaine is 93 years young, and she was just speaking in Los Angeles yesterday. She had 2 speaking events. Not only she's in a great physical shape, she runs the company Be Fit Enterprises. She speaks around the world.
Yeah, inspiring. Yeah, very inspiring. So we are about to wrap it up. I had so much fun having you on the show. Is there anything that you would like to share? Any website or
The website, my website is SwetlanaKim.com, and the first book I wrote is titled White Pearl and I. White Pearl is the name of my grandmother. It's like me, White Pearl and Me, White Pearl and I, a memoir of political refugee. And the second book, my husband Dmitry Babkov and I, we collaborated with late Alan Joe and Annie Joe to bring the story The Last of the Four Musketeers, Alan Joe's life and friendship with Bruce Lee. I highly recommend it. You read this book. It's his life, talk
Yes.
about faith, optimism, overcoming challenges, and remaining so loving and kind.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Svetlana is married and resides in the San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, Dmitry Budkov. Bridge to Wellness allows you to relax into health. And remember, it's a journey of a lifetime.